Hey, Sandman Nation, it's Nate and Brandon. We are the St. Louis Syndicate, here to chat football with you for this wonderful week. Hope you guys liked our NIL portal discussion last week. We're not here to talk college football, though. This is pro football week. Brandon, how'd you do this week in your picks?
Below average, man. I got hosed on a couple games. So, looking back to last week, we liked Jacksonville, we liked Houston. Those came through for us. So that was a big win. That kind of anchored the week for me at the very least and saved me from a truly bad week. But there was a couple of those that just, I don't think that they were necessarily horrible picks, but they just kind of slid the other direction on us.
Man, I think you're right. I mean, I'm very similar, and I kind of look at these picks and the methodology, what we talk through, what makes sense, kind of stuck and held true. There were a couple of oddball things that occurred. Like, I got a little crooked this week, self-admitted, right? Early in the week, I was on New Orleans. I was like, New Orleans is the play. New Orleans is the play. And then I kind of got crooked later on thinking, hey, Tampa lost. Carolina's going to come out firing on all cylinders. So I switched some of my play to Carolina because I'm like, listen, these guys have a chance to win the division. This is a chance. These are grown men getting paid to play a sport, and they're going to come out and attack. And man, New Orleans, I got to give Kellen Moore some credit and Tyler Shugg some credit. These guys are playing hard at the end of the season. They're not going to make the playoffs. They have no chance of it. They're losing draft picks every time they win a game. But honestly,
good point.
They're playing hard, and I have to respect that. And it cost me points this week. It cost me a lot of dollars this week, actually, in some of our pools. But at the end of the day, I put big on Carolina, and that wasn't the play. So that's just an example. Another thing we talked about, and I don't know if we talked about it on the pod or not, but I know you and I talked about it, was Pittsburgh. I was hot. I was hot on Pittsburgh early, and negative on Miami. Buddy Ryan, remember Ryan from last year, guys? Same Man Nation. He joined us. Brandon knows Ryan well, but Ryan and I talked about it even after. Listen, 2 in the cold, and the Steelers on Monday night are a for sure thing. And I played the Steelers, but I only put low wages on them. I put 1 point in my league. I didn't go heavy on them at anything. Whether it's a sports book or whatever, I just didn't do it. And while I won nothing, because there were others that went way bigger. And the truth of the matter is,
when that happened,
sometimes the facts don't lie, right? The Steelers are good on Monday night. 2 is bad in the cold. Whether it's 3.5 or 2.5 or 3, dude, play the hunch, play the trends, play what you need. And I didn't do it. And so I had kind of a mediocre week because of it as well. I was like, that's just shit. So pissed off this week going in. We got to do better this week, man.
That's the one thing that always screws me up is the trends thing, because we know numbers wise that the trends don't work out perfectly.
No.
When everybody starts going a direction, it makes me want to go the other direction. And, to be fair, the first half of the game, I went like, oh, okay, this is doing what this should be doing. And then at some point, Pittsburgh's going to score a couple of points, and Miami will score a couple of points, and, they'll end up winning by a point or 2 or 3, and then I'll cover. Fantastic. And then, Tua threw that pick at the end of the first half while they were driving.
Yeah.
And then couldn't get anything going in the third quarter. And then Rodgers just exploded in the third quarter. And so, that worked out the way that it did. But, something like for this week, where I don't know if you've gotten a chance to listen to the Sandman pod yet that they released this afternoon.
I have not yet,
but
it's on my list.
For the first time that I can remember, all 3 of them are on the same pick this week.
What?
They're on the Rams. They're all on the Rams.
Well, that means I got to go opposite.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
The Sandman is not on the Seahawks? Bill? Oh, why is Bill not on this podcast? I'm telling you, Sandman, this is it. All right, so next week, Christmas, we got to get him before the playoffs start.
Maybe depending on how this game goes, it may be a good time to get, a Washington native's opinion on what ends up happening on Thursday. But I was listening to them talk earlier today. My numbers kind of point in the direction of the Rams.
Yeah.
I make them like 2.8 favorites without home field advantage. So like we get pretty, Seattle's got a good home field advantage.
Oh,
So you start
great.
getting close to like a pick 'em with my number,
Yeah.
and Seattle's getting a point and a half. So it kind of leads me in the direction, even though kind of a Rams believer, when I watch both of the teams play, we're kind of finding out that Darnold has this issue with if you can get pressure up the middle of the defense, that it screws with his ability to kind of get set, pick his spot, and launch the ball. If anybody's good at taking advantage of holes in people's abilities, it's Sean McVay.
Oh, yeah.
So, my brain goes, oh, the Rams less than 3, but my numbers kind of point at Seattle. And then it seems like even fans of Seattle are going, this week doesn't look awesome for us.
I know.
So I start going like, well, then maybe I should be on Seattle. So like that's going to be a hard one. When
it's super hard.
if the Rams just go up there and win by 10 points, everybody's going to go like, duh, obviously. And you're like, sure, obviously. But no, like if if you're questioning when the majority starts moving a direction,
Well,
if it was that easy, Vegas wouldn't make any money. Like,
no, that's not that easy. And truth be told, after watching what Philip Rivers did to Seattle, it makes me a little bit nervous because Stafford is going to have a little bit more of his way. Now we're talking division rivals, right? And I, how I feel about division rivals. There is a thing they're familiar with each other. Home field, the Rams going up there, I don't love it, right? This is where Seattle's going to be fired up. Seattle's defense is going to do their thing. The Rams
For
are
sure.
not going to run ruck shot. So listen, this is the week of, and I don't know, Brandon, we're going to talk about this. This is the week of overreaction. Every game on the slate that happened last week, I'm trying to tell myself, do not overreact. Prime example, Rams and their elite receiving core and Stafford with his MVP season destroying the Lions, who has a complete mash unit in their defensive backfield. If they are healthy, that doesn't happen. But they're not healthy. And so I'm biased. I'm watching this. I'm going, wow, I destroyed the Lions. The Lions, the mighty Lions out of the NFC North. They're mighty. Dan Campbell's Lions. No, Dan Campbell's Lions good because they have a good offense, because their defense is freaking running around like MASH. You can hear the 007 music going, or the MASH 407, Hot Lips Houlihan's there, and, Klinger. And all of them, Klinger's trying to get out of Korea. This is an old person joke. Sorry. So if you're not with me, you got to go watch some MASH. But I'm telling you, the Lions are bad. Then I look at this and I go, the Colts had the appropriate game plan against Seattle, which was run the ball. Run the damn ball. Run. They've farted around with the rookie quarterback. If they played Riley Leonard and they ran the ball as much with Riley Leonard as they did with Philip Rivers, then they might have won the prior games and Philip Rivers might have come out of retirement. But they didn't. They stuck to a game plan and they caused problems. Defensive backfield for the Seattle is nasty. They hit people hard. They make receivers flinch. The linebacking core is good in Seattle. They're really good defense. And in Indianapolis, the biggest difference they had is they were a little off balance because Philip Rivers is like, it's like bringing Peyton Manning or Tom Brady in. You're just not going to whoop him. He knows what to do. He knows how, look, they're blitzing from the left. We're going to run to the right. Oh, God, he sees shit that normal humans don't see when they're rookies. So he can put them in the right position to keep a game close. We're going to talk about the Monday night game coming up, too. He's going to keep them in a position to keep the game close. But with the Rams coming to town, we got an interdivision rival. We got a Seahawks defense that's nasty. And don't get me wrong, Puka's good, right? Adams is out. Where else are we going, Rams? I love Stafford. This smells like upset in the making. And it's not an upset. They're home dogs. They're pissed. They're disrespected. Give me Seattle, baby. Give me Seattle. Come on.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that's going to end up being the play. I
I'm not going to
just
put a lot of weight on it, a lot of points, a lot of money, but I think Seattle's the way to win.
no, because I'm tired of watching Thursday night games is a standalone game and watching money disappear from my Ben Harper bank and my just points evaporate from Gap and all this sort of stuff. When clearly, I mean, one of the obvious downsides is both of these teams are playing every week. They need to win. These
Yeah,
guys are going head to head. You got to win every week.
it's an important
So they're
game.
playing hard. And then you have nice hard game on Sunday. And then 4 days later, you got to play each other. And you just don't know who that's going to impact the most. You
Yeah.
would hope it would be the away team. At the very least, they got to do some travel. It's not time zones. You're just, going up the West Coast, but like you got to do some travel. And I think that it's hard to beat the same team twice. This is.
Yeah.
And the Rams already won.
It's really hard.
Darnold already had a bad game. Unless this game will basically tell us, has McVay figured out something about Darnold? He ended his career in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He goes to Seattle. They pick him off 4 times. Now they're going to Seattle. And we're going to have to see what happens. But outside of going, Darnold is awesome most of the time. It was awesome, but above average almost all the time. And McVay has just figured something out. I wouldn't put it past him, but
no,
you're gonna have to prove it to me. So I think I agree. I think you end up on the Seattle side. I don't think some sort of deep, huge number on it, but it does seem like it's the right play.
Let's talk about this for a second. Okay, just real quick. We're getting ready to get into the top 5 here. I brought up the Power 5, but you just thought of something. So you're telling me that Wild Bill, Wild Man Eric, and Crazy Pat are all on the Rams. And the Syndicate is backing the team in Bill's backyard.
It does sound like that's what's going to happen.
I'm feeling a bet coming. I'm feeling there needs to be a wager between the Syndicate and that team, the no-name podcast they've got. No, the Sandman podcast. We're not going to go there. That was last year's joke.
Yeah.
The Sandman podcast. Are you telling me that we need to make a bet to make Bill root against his own team? I feel like that
is an interesting point to bring up. We may have to have a little text message conversation.
Do you think they'll watch our video before the game tomorrow night? That's the real question.
Yeah, that is kind of cutting it tight.
So I'm thinking, here's the bet, and we're going to throw it out there. Whether they accept or not is who knows. So here's the bet. If we win, Seahawks cover the 1.5 at home, dogs, then they have to come on our podcast, all 3 of them, and acknowledge that we are the best football picker podcasters in Sandman Nation. And if the opposite occurs, we both join their podcast and acknowledge publicly that they whooped us in this event. Do you think that's a fair bet?
I think it is. I definitely, especially because of the alignment across everybody. I listen every week, and they do their 3 picks, and it's across everything. Sometimes it's over unders. So it's really hard
Yeah.
for 3 people to align on the same side of the same game, even when, I mean, obviously we have a little bit of a reduced portfolio this week because there's only 10, 2, 4, 11 bowl games. So,
Yeah.
you don't have the normal 45 college games to pick from along with the NFL, but, it's a pretty big portfolio still.
Yeah.
And I was fairly surprised when I was listening to that and went, oh, everybody. And
Everybody.
it's a short line. It's one thing when you have kind of a wider line and you have a hard opinion, then it's easier to go, especially with an underdog. It's one of those things where if you're betting underdogs and unders, you're kind of rooting for the opposite of human achievement. So, it's easy. You go, hey, I've got a, an underdog that I really like the number on. So I'm going to lean on it. Um, you're just hoping that
I'm
nobody
rooting
really
for
does anything.
the opposite of human achievement. That is a fantastic line. I need to remember that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Can we
it's
make
it's
that
one
a
of those.
segment? What is your opposite of human achievement? It's called contrarian betting, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I got something like, as we kind of get farther into this, I make New England a pretty sizable favorite this week.
Yeah.
They're catching 2.5 points.
Yeah.
So, you go into that game just going, I hope nobody really does much. I need New England to score a couple of points. I need them to keep it close with Baltimore. I don't need people going out there and just touchdown after touchdown. We got to keep it, slim margin between the two of them. And then New England, cover at the end of the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I spend most of my weekend rooting for underdogs and unders. And oh, that was a great little side story. My son turned 1 yesterday.
Happy
Saturday.
birthday
We
to Ellis.
Yeah. So
One. Uno.
kind of looking at the calendar and going, hey, where's a good time to have a 1-year-old birthday party when we're dead in the middle of football season? Well,
Priority.
the weekend where there's only one college game. Now, there's obviously, they started putting a bowl game at night, but you got Army Navy smack dab in the middle of Saturday. It's the only game going on.
Yeah.
Have a birthday party in the background. We can watch our nation's service members play a little football, and there's nothing else going on. So we start the party. I take Army. We're an Army house. I don't bet against Army. So I take Army in the under. And then we sit there and the entire party, you one eye, you're just rooting against anybody doing anything. I got 5.5 points with Army. We need to keep it under 38.5 points. You just go, once Army scores towards the beginning of the game, you go, this is great. I don't want anybody to do anything.
Yeah.
Let's play back and forth between the 40s, for the rest
Normally,
of the
for
game.
the service academy, that's perfect.
Yeah. And so it worked out perfectly. Kind of saved my week, as it turns out, because I was kind of 50-50 in the NFL. But yeah, that was, it's one of those, everybody else coming in, talking about what picks they've got on Sunday for different NFL teams. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm betting on service members to not score, basically.
They call that a degenerate. Have you ever heard that definition?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, not to
Brandon,
completely
that's good stuff.
derail us, but
That's
yeah,
a good story, though.
underdogs
Well, I
and
think the
unders.
moral of the story is happy birthday to Ellis.
Absolutely. It's a good little boy.
Well, hey, let's touch on our tops here. We got some really good stuff I want to cover for Survivor.
Let's do it.
You've done a lot of good work here. So our Power 5 this week is a Power 6, actually. We've run down, and we've it's really hard, right? With the Patriots losing this week to Buffalo, to not keep Buffalo out of the top. At the same time, it was a good game and it was a challenging game, and I don't see the Patriots falling. But the Texans have crept into the top 5. This defense is stifling people. They're really making a move, and keeping them out of the top 5 didn't seem right this week. I think the Rams and the Seahawks can potentially maybe kick one of them down this week after Thursday night. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that game goes. Like, there's a real possibility. I mean, I think we'll have a nice close game, and we'll see that both of those teams probably deserve to stay up there. But at this point, it's real hard to make an argument against one of those 6
Yeah,
because as soon as you go down a row and you go, we've got these 5, they are a different class than the other 6. Like,
yeah,
it is. Like, when you watch the totality of the season and you go, if I took any of those top 6 and put them against the bottom 5, heads up, like, money line wise, I have a hard time picking any of those over the ones above it. So I think that's just where you have to draw the line.
yeah, yeah. No, it makes total sense. The playoffs in sight; those guys make sense, right? I mean, Jags are playing okay. Lions are they're hit and miss. San Francisco's kind of on the rise. Chicago is continuing. That they're winning, and I think in the NFL that's the name of the game, right? Win. Um,
Yeah.
we're kind of seeing these teams still fighting, right? The Colts, they haven't given up. They went out and hired a gunslinger. The Eagles, they're hit or miss. They're fighting. The Falcons win a little bit here or there. They're trying. They're not going to get anywhere, but they're trying. Vikings are kind of the same boat as the Falcons. They've got this young quarterback. They're trying. But Pittsburgh's the one, right? I want to talk a little about Pittsburgh. They're that team that's really pushing playoffs in sight, right? We know they're leading the division. The playoffs are in sight for them. If they don't lose, they're there. Um, but were they giving us facts against Miami, or was that just Miami being really bad this week? And it could be hard for us to tell, as I noted earlier, that this is going to be the week of overreactions. Do we love Pittsburgh because Miami is so bad?
Well, I'll tell you personally, I don't I don't love Pittsburgh. Now, I was on Miami. It didn't work out for me. I don't love Miami either. It's just their run game had started to work. So it led me to believe that going out in the cold, you can still run the ball. Now, I
Yep.
don't know if Achan was hurt more than he let on, and that made it hard to get out there in the cold and run the
Yeah.
ball effectively,
Possible.
or if Pittsburgh's run D just did what they needed to do to make it happen. But Pittsburgh, to me, having watched every play of their season, when they get rolling, they are very difficult to stop. And they put pressure on the other team to
They
keep
do.
up with them, which helps their defense, I think. When the offense isn't working, and look, I unfortunately do not understand enough about the true X's and O's to go, it's not working because the offense is doing something dumb or the defense is doing something exceptional. But when it doesn't work, they seem to not have a plan B or C or D. They're like, this is what we were planning on doing. It either works or it doesn't. And to me, that makes it a little worrisome to lay points with them because you could be halfway through the first quarter and go, oh, this just isn't going to work. There's no way they're going to catch up. There's no real opportunity for this to just slide back the other direction. So that's where, look, they're there. They're still fighting. They're in first place. They have another wildly underperforming team that we've got down there in the kind of trying lane, trying to catch up with them and not
They're just
doing
trying to.
exceptional up until this. Well, until this last week, Baltimore couldn't figure it out. And then I finally go, okay, like I'm going to pick hard against them. And then Cincy out underperforms even Baltimore and
They
just lets
quit playing.
Baltimore just go ham on them. I mean, that was a full on whipping when I thought Cincinnati could win the game outright. So, it's interesting going into this week and going, okay, Pittsburgh now has to go on the road. So they don't have that environment to help them. And they got to play Detroit. Now, my numbers make them very even teams. And
Yes.
Detroit's laying 7 or 7.5 points. So it feels like a Pittsburgh game,
Yeah.
but damn if we could be 3 minutes into the second quarter and just watching the back of Amon-Ra's head just run away from defenders and just go, oh, okay, that's how this is going to be. So,
We've seen this movie
it's
before.
going to be, it's going to be, it seems like to me, Detroit has a set of plays, or maybe all of their plays, where they always have a guy dragging across the field behind the linebackers. And either the team knows how to do something with that, or we have a game. Yeah, the Dallas game was crazy. It felt like 3 plays every drive. You were watching a defender from Dallas try to figure out how to drag down a wide receiver from behind who had just caught a crosser without horse collaring him. And it was just over and over and over. It was just like they couldn't make the adjustment to stop that from happening. And if Pittsburgh can't, then Amon-Ra and Jameis are just going to just kill them over the middle. So, it's going to be a hard one, but it's a lot of points to win by when Detroit has clear issues with their defense, which you just talked about with the Rams game.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is when you look at it, it's a week of overreaction. The Dolphins are bad. They actually quit, right? Troy Aikman, if you listen to that Monday night game, just basically lambasted the Dolphins for not even trying in the fourth quarter to come back. And the Dolphins actually had a flurry of points that occurred. And they didn't call timeouts. They kept staying in bounds. They weren't trying to effectively manage the clock to try to win the game. And I mean, he was beside himself in the booth. I mean, Joe Buck was trying to keep him from going way down a spiral. And it was awful because the Dolphins actually quit in that game. But does that mean that the Steelers are that much better? Fast forward, we know the Rams are good, but we also know, as we talked about earlier, that the Lions defense is a mash unit. They're brutal, right? The Rams are running rucksack all over them. So no matter how good Amara and those boys are, they were running around, and you're only as memorable as your last performance. So are we going to overrate the Steelers heading into Detroit, or are we going to account for the Lions defense? And I'm on Pittsburgh in this, and here's why. I don't, I'm going to go back, and I've said this before if you listen to our podcast about our manager that believed in art versus science. And if science was truly it, right, the X's and O's, you were just saying, I don't know everything about the X's and O's, but it sure seems this way. Well, there are people who do know the X's and O's. There are analysts, there's talking heads, there is data monsters, and they're not picking these games accurate either. They're betting on the wrong side. And so,
sure,
there is a game of feel. And so I would argue that we're looking at a Pittsburgh Steelers team. And so I'm a little bit on the Steelers, so bear with me. I would argue that there's a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has a quarterback who is older and he's on his swan song. He came in late to the team, later than most teams do. He had to learn the personnel, learn the coaches, get comfortable with everybody. They started off a little slow. In the last few weeks, he broke his hand. But at the end of the day, and not to sound like Chris Collinsworth, but this is it for him, right? And so he's trying to ride out on a white horse, and he's playing meaningful football, blah, blah, blah. I've heard that 100 times. Aaron Rodgers wants to play meaningful football. But at the end of the day, he is playing meaningful football. Every game counts right now, and he's rising to that occasion. Additionally, they had a new receiver this year, DK Metcalf. It has taken 10 weeks for DK and Aaron to get on the same page. And it seems like the last 3 or 4 weeks, they're on the same page. They have a running game that is continuing to establish itself. Tomlin is not the joke of a coach. I know that they've been frustrated with him. Sometimes a message tends to wear out on a fan base, but that doesn't change the fact that he's a good coach, and that he knows football and that he understands men. And I actually feel like this Steelers team is starting to peak and rise as we head into the playoffs, and they're a team that nobody wants to face. Um, I don't see the Lions, as much as I hate to say it, I don't see the Lions being able to bring that type of intensity to this game. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's my 2 cents on Pittsburgh right now. I kind of feel like they're, as we talk in business, right? You want to graph this sloping upwards to the right. You want that trend going upwards to the right. The Steelers are going upwards to
Yeah.
the right, and the Lions are not. They're kind of going down to the bottom. So, or that's not a trend you want to see. So the Steelers are on the right trend. The Lions are not on the right trend. Anyway, that was a lot of shit to say just to say I like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, but you brought up something that I hadn't really thought about.
Okay.
And I don't know if this quite it works the way that I think about it, right? To a certain extent. Because the way that I've been building my numbers is to, I would say, drastically weight the more recent games.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have kind of just been talking about, here is the delta of the ratings. When I go, hey, Rams, Seattle, I make it before home field advantage adjustments, Rams by 2.8.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, that doesn't necessarily take into account whether the Rams are a 10 and Seattle is a 7, or the Rams are a 6 and Seattle's a 3, right?
Okay.
It's just
Yep.
going in relation to each other. So I haven't done a ton to sit and pay attention to the individual ratings for the teams, right? If I look at Pittsburgh this week, I have Pittsburgh at zero point 0.8 points. So they're
Okay.
just above average, right? So last week, they were at 0.4.
Okay.
Week 14, they were at negative 2.3. Week 13, they were at negative 1.9. So
Upward
they
sloping
kind
to
of
the
went down a
right.
little bit, but they've been building up the last 3 weeks. They went from a negative 2.3 to a 0.4 to a 0.8. And, they individually, like you said, are sloping up. And there may be something to that to look at, not only the difference in the ratings between the two teams to go, hey, that's what a spread should look like, but individually, are the teams building up themselves, and how long have they been, and how drastically has it been going? And maybe that's something to build into this, to kind of
And
look
then
at and
overlay
go,
them.
yeah, and kind of look at it to go, okay, I look like I have, something like New Orleans versus the Jets. Make New Orleans over a 10-point favorite. Now, the Jets are doing a ton of work in that. The Jets are a negative 7.9.
Yeah.
So New Orleans being 2.2 is the fact that they have continued to battle these last couple of games, and they are outperforming their point spreads, and their win totals are growing and getting better odds, and their future strength of schedule is
Their
getting
trends are
easier.
doing this.
So yeah, like it's building up, but the Jets are doing a ton of work of going, if they don't play like a negative 8-point team, then does that 10-point favorite, does that erode pretty quickly? And I don't know, mathematically how to kind of build in and kind of overlay to go, obviously, a 10-point favorite is crazy when the Vegas line is 4.5 points.
Okay.
But is
So
it,
I think you've got to do that, but this is where the importance is. Well, you kind of you really pay attention to the strength of schedule in your rankings, right?
yeah,
If you took your numbers though and laid it against the strength of schedule, how does that look? Is the trend
yeah,
only going up because the schedule's going down, or is the schedule staying flat and the trend's going up? Or, that could be an indicator as well.
yeah. For that strength of schedule point, I got a Schefter tweet right here in the middle of us being on air. The last Rams fan in St. Louis sent me the list of teams that have faced 10 or more teams with a 500 record or better. So we've got the Rams, the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Titans have faced 11 teams that have a 500 or better record. The Texans, the Chiefs, the Saints have all faced 10 teams.
Okay.
Bengals are 3-8. Cardinals are 1-10. The Titans are 0-11. The Texans are now 5-5. The Chiefs are 3-7. The Saints are 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are 8-3.
Maybe that's why those boys over there, maybe our bet should be nulled.
Kind of jumps off the page. Now, I texted him back and went, how are you feeling about tomorrow night? Maybe get a little bit of a Rams fan perspective on it. But that is an interesting piece of information that, again, friends, past performance does not guarantee future performance. Right? Just like every stock in the world. But when you look at that and go, hey, when my team is playing a better than average team, how do they do? Because at a certain point, when you get a good team against a good team, like obviously the spread matters. And you can go back and you can go, how do they perform against the spread? But the name of the game, especially when you're playing teams that are above 500, is we need wins because we're all trying to get to the playoffs here. So when you go down that road of, hey, we're not playing crappy teams that might not care or might be looking to get a better, draft pick or whatever, and you lay that out and you go, not only are the Rams 8-3 in 11 games, 11 of 15 games, well, 14 games because they've had a bye week. 11 of 14 games have been against above average teams. They're 8-3. And for the year, have outperformed the spread by 5.6 points. So not only have they won those games, but they have outperformed the spread that the wisdom of the crowds have put together. So that does start leaning in the direction. I still think it's a bad spot. They play a hard game against Detroit. They got to get on a plane and go somewhere else on a Thursday. They got good home field advantage in Seattle.
Art versus science.
That doesn't tell me, hey, I should get off Seattle personally. But it does say that if the Rams come in there and just handle business, that you go, when, 5 weeks ago, I was going, I think the Rams are the best team in the league, that they probably are. And they just have to keep their geriatric quarterback, upright and safe. Yeah. So that was interesting. That was just a little digression.
That is
kind of
interesting.
went with.
I love this, the thought process of the overlay of the trends of how guys are going and teams are going. I think there's something there at a minimum just to glance at and say, how does this apply to each game each week? It's a new scenario each week.
Yeah. Just another piece of data to look at and go, which way does this point?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you gotta, decide that you're comfortable with the pick. But especially in something like when we play in where we're going to make every pick in every game,
Yeah.
there are some games that you just look at and go,
No.
I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
So
No, there
you
is.
come up with a methodology where you go, we got Cincinnati going to Miami this week, who are
Oh,
starting a quarterback that nobody was even a big fan of in college. So you just go, like, I don't know what's going to happen.
right.
Knows, you know. Now, maybe you find a data point that goes, it should be this way. And you go, all right, then fine, I'll fire that way. But I think that there's something to that, the way that you were talking about Pittsburgh, to next year go into it going, hey, let's trend how these teams are looking week over week. And that way, if you start seeing a big delta between the compiled spread and the Vegas spread, you can go, is one of these teams just hot? And it hasn't been taken into account yet. And if that's the case, then you got to
Yeah.
decide, how much do I believe in the run that they're on?
Yeah. How much am I going to fire on this thing? But, you
Yeah,
could do that now heading into the playoffs. But there's a
you
window in there
can.
also, because you get into this in about another week. You're going to get into the teams that definitely are done, and then they start resting players, and you're going to have a whole new scenario
Yeah.
to start dealing with.
No, I'm gonna have to figure out something to do with that, because
Yeah, it'd be good to look
even
at.
just this week where you go, hey, Miami's gonna pull their quarterback and bring in another quarterback, you go, I need the betting markets to adjust to take that into account.
Yeah.
DraftKings has the win total off the board for Miami right now. So I needed to come back up and see where it is, see what it changed from, and two, to get an idea of, hey, where does Vegas think this changes their power ranking, and then can make some adjustments here. Until then,
Agreed.
you're just kind of going, damn, Miami's not as good as they were, or because none of us are really big Tua people, maybe this guy comes in and he's a breath of fresh air and he is able to stay disciplined and play within the strategy that they have, and maybe he plays better. Maybe we just get,
Highly possible.
Miami all of a sudden closer to an average team.
New
You
quarterbacks
just
are
kind of
always
have to
wild
decide
cards.
which way you think. Yeah.
New quarterbacks are wild cards, and honestly, if you look at the last 2 years of new quarterbacks, they haven't been bad. They're coming in a little bit more prepared.
It
Shador
does seem like it.
doesn't look terrible. Jackson Dart doesn't look terrible. And if you really look, I mean, honestly, year 2 of Drake May, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Penix, I mean, these guys don't look brutal. They're coming in a little more prepared. So what makes us think that Quinn Ewers, who in a lot of instances was better than some of those guys in college, won't be
Sometimes, yeah.
prepared? I mean, at times, it's a difficult one, right? I mean, maybe he's not your prototypical. And I know that there was the Arch Manning rumors there, but if Arch Manning wasn't there, would everybody have looked at Quinn Ewers a little differently? Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Um,
I mean, I think he got snowed a little bit, but I know when he was playing, the people that do this sort of grading went like, sure, he's having good outcomes, but there's holes in his game. And,
yeah.
it's an interesting thing to stand up Rivers coming out of retirement and starting versus what you were just saying, that we have this group of quarterbacks that are coming out and they seem to be more prepared for what's going on.
Yeah.
And yet, Indianapolis falls apart. They lose, 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks, and they go, there's not a guy, I guess, sitting on his couch that's undrafted or something. Like, obviously, they can't go and get another quarterback off another team. But to go, okay,
No.
these 80-ish quarterbacks are on teams somewhere. So let me go get quarterback 81. Or let's grab Rivers, who has a relationship with the head coach and can be spun up quickly. And, there was a lot of that talk
Oh
in
yeah.
that talking headspace this last week that went, what does this say about the development of our quarterbacks that your quarterback goes down and you go get a dude that's 44 that hasn't played in 5 weeks or 5 years? They were taking something super negative from that. And look, you think it's a fair, logical argument to make, but it does seem like the top of that echelon of these young guys are not. It's even wider difference. We're getting like a K graph where the guys that are ready are like ready, and the guys that
Ready.
aren't are being left in the dust
Yeah.
because it's like, oh,
Agreed.
you aren't ready for this. There are guys that are ready, so you can just go get a job somewhere because
Yeah.
you're not going to catch up to these other guys. And it's an interesting thing. To the same week, we have this public debate over 44-year-old quarterbacks to bring up the point that look, Bo Nix is just dancing on my take grave for this year because I just went, sure, yeah, he's fine. Denver is going to win the West. What are we talking about? And then not only are they going to win the West, they might get the bye if
Yeah.
they finish out this run here. Like
Yeah.
they're not whipping people, but they are consistently outplaying every team. But just a little
And I
bit.
hear
Just enough.
a lot of people are down on Nix and they're like, he's not doing this. And I'm like, you know what? He's doing what it takes.
He's doing enough. And look, the last couple of weeks, he's doing some stuff.
Yeah.
And it may have just taken him a
Agreed.
little bit of time to get, there's something to be said about going out there and going, just don't do something stupid. Like, we have a good defense.
Yeah.
We have a good game plan for the offense. Don't go, it's close. Let me just try to rip it and get it in there on a window or over the top or whatever. Just go, eat it. Live to fight
Take the
another
play,
day.
go to the
And it
next play.
seems like
Take the play.
he's disciplined enough to not do that. And
Yeah.
that seems to be doing plenty to help him carry the day. So I found that very interesting. Surely, as much as I like to talk about when I'm right about things, I feel it very necessary when a guy is just whipping me on my tape that I got to go hands up. Like he's in the top 6 right now.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even take them to be a wild card team, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I
I've
did
always
take them to
kind of
be a
liked
wild
Bo
card
Nix.
team. So at least that, but I was way off.
Give yourself a
on
little credit.
2 losses. Yeah. So, that's just one of those things that jumps out at me when you bring that up.
No, I absolutely agree. And it's interesting to see the different dynamics. I mean, Bo Nix is he was a good player. He was a little older coming out. I don't think people felt that he was your prototypical young star because he was a little bit more mature. He bounced from Auburn to Oregon. He'd been around a while. I mean, hell, didn't he come into the league and he's as old, if not older, than Trevor Lawrence? I
I
think we've
believe
talked about that
so.
before. It's some kind of
Though
weird
the
stat.
thing with
Lawrence is only
Sunshine is
4 years.
crazy. There are like dudes
Yeah.
playing in the college playoff this year that's still older than him. I don't know what's happening. Did he start playing for the Jags when he was
Yeah.
15? I don't. Like, he
I
played
don't
a
know.
couple of years at Clemson.
It's
I
weird.
don't understand how they still. I think somebody brought up. Oh, I think it was Shaw down there or Shuck or whatever we're calling the New Orleans quarterback. I think he was in the same class coming up as Sunshine, that like they were at the same like quarterback camps and like all that sort of stuff. Like that's
He's only
insane.
26, dude. I just Googled him. He's 26.
Yeah. Has he been playing for
Got
7 years?
drafted in 21. 21. Yeah.
This is his 5th year.
Yeah. He
But yeah,
played
he's been playing
21,
since he's
22, 23,
21.
24.
I guess these guys are just playing a lot long. Like he hit the very end of like the COVID exceptions. And I guess a lot of these guys got a year or two of exceptions and they're just like lasting a lot. I guess maybe this won't happen again in the near future, but it seems like every once in a while you have somebody that comes through. You had that with Harper in baseball. You
Yeah.
know, that like he got to like start when he was 18. So you had all of these things where it's like, here's this guy, he's been in Major League Baseball for 5 years. And then there's like guys graduating that played like Little
Yeah.
League with them. And like they're
Yeah.
just now getting drafted, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, yeah, every once in a while you have that anomaly, but you
It
know,
is. It's smaller. And in college, though, I think it's going to change now because of the portal and the transferring. And I'm not going to go into that whole spiel again. So thank you all for your comments and feedback. But um, at the end of the day, when you look at some of that, his when he came out, they weren't transferring like they were. Now you're seeing guys going for that extra year because it's helping them develop, maybe getting him a chance. Bryce Young's another one. I don't know how old Bryce Young is. Um, but Bryce Young maybe only played college football for like a year. Let's see. He's 24 and he got drafted in 22. And he's been
he
in the
got
league
drafted when he was 20, 21, something around there.
21. So he's another one that's young. So this is another kid that's 24. He's 3 years away from technically being in his prime, and he's kind of getting it, starting to get it.
It's a good point. I mean, he's definitely playing better. You know, again, it would take an X's and O's guys to go, I think this is why he's
Now,
playing better, and whether those skills tend to be ones that you can continue to evolve on, or if
Jalen
what's
Hurts is
happening
only
now
27.
is basically his, yeah. Yeah, it's just it's very odd. It makes it feel like um, we're not talking enough about Sean Payton. It seems like basically went, here's a guy that played a lot of college ball. And I think his abilities are consistent and that I can then train him up from there instead of going
Yeah,
like the Trey Lance route where somebody played 7 games over 2 years for South Dakota State and he was electric. And then you go, but we're just going to bring you right into the NFL and like have fun playing your 8th serious game of football in your entire life against
in the NFL.
35-year-old dudes. So,
Yeah,
you know, you just don't, it's hard to figure out how much of that longevity is really a precursor to being able to be an NFL quarterback. But it does
yeah,
seem like we have some limited examples where we took dudes that played like 4 or 5 or 6 full years and then went,
yeah,
okay, you really got your feet under you here. And we're going to now bring you into the NFL and teach you the next level after you've played 60 football games at the collegiate
yeah.
level. So, yeah, that may just be
The
something
curve
to
is the
think
flat.
about. Yeah. Yeah. To go, hey, when we think going into a season, which rookie quarterbacks might be able to make the jump, that maybe we put a little extra thumb on the scale towards the guys that have considerably more starts than average.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. I think it's interesting to see all this, and we'll have. They say this class coming out's a little bit weaker, maybe than past classes. I think there's some talented
Yeah,
guys
but
out
next
there
year's supposed to be a
that are probably
banger.
sitting on the bench. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, um, Brandon, we've hit that time. You did some extra work this week. Everybody loves this part of the show. It's the survivor piece.
Yeah.
We once again we were 3-0 this week. We're gonna kind of go through our plays and talk about them, but at the end we've got a little bit of a special kind of breakdown that the guys in the Sandman Survivor might want to listen to, because Brandon did a little extra legwork and he kind of knows who all everybody's taken that's left and the teams available to play. And we'll kind of go down that just a little bit. It's kind of interesting, and we'll kind of cover it. But let's start with the top play. The highest percentage team on the board is the Houston Texans. And if you have the Houston Texans available, you should probably play them against those Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are just bad. They're one of those teams that just gave up, don't play. But the Texans are definitely a driving force right now. They're on that upward trend that we talked about, and the Raiders are definitely not on an upward trend.
Yeah, that was a fun game to just move on from in the early window on Sunday,
Yeah,
where I
absolutely.
went, well, Philly has not been doing great. So let me take the double digit points for Vegas. And then 5 minutes into the game, went like, oh, these guys aren't playing anymore. That's odd. Like
No,
Philly,
they gave up.
even in their anemic offense, is going to just slowly strangle these guys. And that's exactly what they did. So yeah, I have a hard time um picturing ways that Vegas comes out here and outright wins this game. You never know on
Yeah,
Sundays, but this is one of those ones that's crazy big.
yeah, yeah. I can't even see it. The next one, the safe play is the Bills. They've got Cleveland coming, or actually, they're going to Cleveland, I believe. Yeah, they're going to Cleveland.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me nervous about this one is that Cleveland or Buffalo has a tendency to forget how to play football in the first half. If they could just
Yeah.
put together 4 quarters, I'd feel a whole lot better about this. But for the most part, I don't see a world in which the Bills do not come out on top in this game. Do you?
No, I look, Cleveland's defense plays much better at home. Exactly what you said about Buffalo, that in the first half of games, they seem to just let the other team take a nice lead and then catch up with them. But um again, it's one of those hard, like Buffalo has to keep winning. New England has to keep winning. Like they are in this trajectory of fighting for the top of this division. So to give in to a team that just statistically is as bad as Cleveland is, um, would be an enormous example of playing down to your opponent. Like, you want to go take the
Absolutely.
10 or 10 and a half points? I mean, go for it. I think Buffalo ends up covering on top of winning the game. But, when you have to go on the road, weird things happen. Um, it seems like Allen might have full on turned a corner there against New England of just taking a good team and finishing them, that hopefully will carry into this week.
It's much needed. Hopefully, they don't play down to their competition.
Right.
So our risk reward plays, San Francisco and New Orleans. We'll put 2 out here, mostly because San Francisco is at Indianapolis, and that is truly a risk, right? If you have San Francisco left and you're feeling risky and froggy against the Colts and the old guy, the Niners have been on an upward trend, right? They've won their last 4. They had a bye 2 weeks ago. but they're playing some weaker teams, right? They played Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, and Tennessee. So, they look good, but are they a paper tiger? I don't know. We'll see how this plays. Indianapolis could sneak up and win this one. I wouldn't be sold on it. It would not be my play, but it is a risk reward play because you're definitely not going to play San Francisco against Chicago or Seattle.
Right. This is the shot. If you saved them, this is the week to save them for.
Yep.
It's also a little
if you're going to play
crazy
them.
if you save them because 4 weeks ago, this was a much different game. You
Yeah.
had Indianapolis, who
Absolutely.
was still on a heater. So like, if you still have them, great. You probably skipped like the true technical best spot to play them. But this does seem like 6.5 point favorite. There's only 5 teams that are a 6 or better point favorite this week. So you're getting the slim
That's right.
pickings, especially if you've used some of these guys. This
you
New
wanna get
Orleans one that you
really
brought up
risky,
is a pretty good
you could take
idea.
Yeah. So, risk reward again, New Orleans. New Orleans is one of the teams that we've had, Brandon, as, the team playing New Orleans or the team playing Tennessee. Do you remember this at the beginning of the season? And that was back
Yeah.
before they got on board with, Tyler Shug. They beat Carolina, they beat Tampa. They did lose recently to Miami and Atlanta. They've just been a little bit hit or miss, right? I mean, they're not a complete team yet, but this is a trend upward sloping to the right. They play hard, they play close, they don't give up, and they got the Jets, who is way going the wrong direction. So I kind of like the Saints in this spot. If you're gonna want to save or don't have available to you the big boys of Houston and Buffalo.
Yeah, I like it. And again, these numbers that Vegas puts together get firmed up considerably over a long period of time and a ton of money pouring in on top of them. And when you look down the line and you get, hey, we're going to go below 6 point favorite, New Orleans is the next best one at 4.5, unless you want to work into that whole Cincinnati thing. They're up to a 4.5 point favorite over Miami. But again, taking a real coin flip there with what Miami's going to be able to do.
So for our plays, I've got us down for New Orleans here. Brandon, I don't recall, but were you on New Orleans? I know I'm on New Orleans. I may not have got yours updated on the slide.
No,
Apologize if that's the case.
no, I got to be on San Francisco. It's kind of
Okay.
a weighing out against what people have left in the league
Yep.
that I'm still alive in. But yeah, I kind of mapped out these last 3 weeks, and it puts me taking a shot with San Francisco this week.
Well, speaking of mapping out, and just for record, the team playing Tennessee is the Chiefs, and we do not recommend playing the Chiefs this week with Gardner Minshew. I'm not
No,
saying that
that's a
Tennessee is going to
risky.
win. I'm not saying that Kansas City is going to win. That's just for your edification. But Brandon took some time and
Yeah,
actually mapped out some of the 12. Right, there's 12 guys left.
yeah,
There's some teams that have been used by everybody, some teams that are available by everybody. Um, I I think when we look at this, Brandon, and I'm going to let you kind of go in after this first comment by me because you've got it all up on your screen. But
yeah,
if you have Houston available and you don't play him this week, you're probably crazy because we know there's like 5 or 6 guys that have Houston and they're playing Vegas, who's really bad. And if Vegas wins this, and you're going down shooting your best shot at a minimum because you're really probably not going to play them against the Chargers or the Colts, being the Colts interdivision and that, and you have them available. You're just gonna not play them. I don't see that as a 14.5 point favorite right now. Um, so there's a few teams out there
yeah.
that
And you have to
have
have a
those guys left.
really, you have to have a really good reason, right? Like yeah, you can map it all out and go, hey, I've got these other three and this is how it fits for me. But when you're skipping a 14.5 point favorite with 3 weeks to go in a league that's the size of what we have at Sandman, you're really taking your life in your hands. So yeah, there's 7 guys of the 12 that have Houston left and not another place to play him. So it seems like, when you look across the board, we had 5 guys, 5 teams that are favored by 6 or more points right now. You got Buffalo and Detroit, which have been completely used across the group that's still alive, which leaves you with Houston and Philly and San Francisco. So every one of the guys has at least one of those teams available between those three. So I think that puts us in a position where we're probably going to see a huge percentage of the pool be those 3 teams, because there's not exactly a more fantastic place to really play any of the 3 after this week. And then, kind of get into some of this tighter situation where, if those 3 aren't really good picks the next 2 weeks, you start to get into that, there's only a couple of guys that have New England left, that have Jacksonville, that have the Chargers, Green Bay's down to just a guy, Tampa Bay is real low, Arizona's real low. So, you can kind of see that if you have the opportunity to go, hey, I'm going to be able to get into one of these more restricted big favorites in the last 3 weeks and give yourself a chance for something crazy to happen, right? Across all of these, where, theoretically you're taking touchdown and up favorites every week. And for those to lose, it's a pretty small percentage in general. And we got from 640 guys all the way down to 12. So a lot of people got bounced on what should have been fairly comfortable plays. But this definitely puts us in a position where, these last couple of weeks, we can see who survives and see what kind of picks we have out there, and kind of give a picture now that it's down to a manageable level to go, when you got 100 guys left, it's a little harder to go, hey, here's where we think this should go. But, it does seem like, sure, all 12 of these guys are mapping out everybody's picks and whatnot. But it does seem like there's a couple of paths as you look through the look-ahead lines for the next 2 weeks and start looking at who's got what left, that there's a couple of guys that have definitely left themselves in a position to have big favorites all 3 weeks and give them the best opportunity to what looks like probably being a pool of guys that make it to the end. It'd be pretty hard to eliminate 11 guys in 3 weeks, but good luck to all 12 of you
We
out
eliminated
there.
900 over
I hope.
Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's one of those ones that jumps out that you go, hey, this is real interesting to see what we've gotten down to without the restriction around having to, if we had those weeks split into 2 like Circa does, and you have the only people surviving from week, what was that, 13A, with all underdogs winning, you really only have guys with multiple entries when it comes down to it. That's the reality of it, is that, they, interestingly enough, publish some numbers around the last couple of years and the people that make it to the end and how many entries they had in the contest, so that you could see that a lot of this is coming down to just attrition. That you're getting yourself enough opportunities, they max everybody at 10. But it seems like
Yeah.
the thing that's being talked about behind the scenes is that people are finding their ways into selling portions of theirs and getting it where a group of guys have like dozens of entries and then can kind of use that person's entries against mine and keep us kind of collectively alive and that sort of thing where you get to all four underdogs losing and people getting through playing underdog teams. Well, they eliminated several other of their entries on a big favorite and were able to make it through.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. If you got 4 guys and you each get 10 entries, so,
Yeah.
your investment is what, 40,000?
Yeah.
Um,
You're playing for 18 million.
10 to yeah, 40,000. You're playing for 18,000,000. You start running the math, you're going, "Wait a minute, that's worth it."
I can play
Yeah.
tons of combinations. Yeah.
Yeah. There's you just there's ways to make this thing happen, and I'm surprised they haven't figured out how to eliminate that yet, or at least reduce it to you're only allowed 5 entries, or
Yeah.
there's
I
gonna
don't,
be a
I
thing at
just,
some point.
I don't know how you do it other than I really don't, because it's not like they are facilitating any of the sharing of ownership. It's all being done outside the bounds of everything else.
Yeah.
So, you're just going off of, professional relationships that like these are my 10
Yeah.
entries and those are your 10 and those are your 10 and we're gonna pool them. And hopefully at the end of the day, if we win something, then, everybody will get paid out their shares and whatnot, you know. But um it does it does seem like at a certain point there's enough money sloshing around that if you have the capital available, you really put yourself in a position where like you can play, all of the big favorites week after week after week and just slowly close the funnel until you have to make some picks. At this point, what they're down to 8 or 9 people. So like
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anybody that necessarily has a bunch of entries left or ownership in a bunch of entries. So now you are just kind of taking one shot and going, hey, this is my shot at 18 million. But before then, they had plenty of opportunities to play a bunch of combinations and keep themselves alive.
It'd be interesting to find out if of the 8 people left, how many of them are in cahoots. 6 of them are part of a syndicate that are together.
Well, I know I had heard that they didn't work out any sort of chop situation going into
No.
last weekend. So I have to
Yeah.
assume that there's somebody that thinks that they have a better than 1 in 9 chance to win this thing. So whether
Yeah.
that's just being bullheaded or I actually have more than a 1 in 9 chance at this because I own,
Yeah.
pieces of multiple entries that you go, yeah, it's just not worth it for me yet. Let's eliminate a couple more guys. Um,
Yeah.
so these last 3 weeks will be interesting on the Sandman side, and it will be interesting on the Circus side, and we'll see how this shakes out. We'll get one more data point come Sunday for Sandman, and Saturday night I think for Circa we'll be able to see where the 9 people went.
Yeah, it's gonna be good to see. So, all right, Brandon. Any other teams that jump off the page at you before we wrap it up for the night?
Um,
Anything you
I
want to share with the listeners?
look, the biggest one for me is that New Orleans one. That I'm
Yeah.
making a 10-point favorite. They're at 4.5. It's not as big of a swing necessarily as Buffalo and Houston. But when you start getting into making a team a 14 and a 19-point favorite, you have to You have to kind of mentally adjust that a little bit. But I think that New Orleans one, looking at laying that 4.5, outside of just being afraid of a team that is not an elite team laying points, that's really the only thing that is kind of playing in the back of my head. What's your favorite for the week?
Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one that I want to monitor throughout the weekend. Is that
Okay.
my numbers tell me that Indianapolis should be a 1.5 point favorite. And they're catching 6.5 on a lot of our pools.
Okay.
So, and I don't know exactly, my numbers take into account a little bit of home field in Indianapolis. They take into account the whole year, the body of work, which we know that Indianapolis, as of late, has struggled a little bit more.
Different situation. Yeah.
But then add into it, I do rank the Philip Rivers quarterback situation a little bit higher because I think that he might keep this closer with the 6.5 out there. So to me, I think that Indianapolis is not a terrible play at this moment. Now I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what the bettors are doing. I'm going to see if there's people out there trying to move the line a little bit. Um, I'm not exactly certain that San Francisco on the road is a touchdown better than Indianapolis after Indianapolis went into Seattle and did what they did. There may be a lot of people that think the same way, but that's a big number to cover. And I'd like to think that there's going to be at some point in time a swan song on Philip Rivers, and a Monday night would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, again, we're just going down trend directions, right? And this isn't even really a trend because I'm not really like, I'm not really tracking it in any way. But, I was on
Yeah.
Indy last week because I went, oh, hey, this first game that they get, new coach, new quarterback, sometimes you get that bump. And it feels like it's just the one game, though. And that's where my brain
Yeah, yeah,
starts to
yeah.
go, okay, is this the game that now Rivers, what he was on tape, now San Francisco's been able to sit down, watch that game cut 1,000 different ways and go, okay, here's the plan we're going to use. And put, at least they're playing against Seattle
Yeah.
on paper. And now we can build a response to that. And hey, if they can switch it up, maybe they catch us. But I do, my brain kind of pushes me to lean the other direction. Like my numbers make San Francisco a 5.5 favorite. Okay, that's about where it is. You make it a little bit better. Indianapolis, maybe you shave a point and a half off. They're really like 4-point
Yeah.
favorites. You're getting 6.5. Like that's pretty good. You probably, lean on the Indianapolis side,
Yeah.
but um but it could just be one of those games where now San Francisco's able to go in there and go, okay, here's exactly what we want to do. And if Steichen doesn't adjust, he just gets caught flat footed. So, that's that
That's right.
second game that always worries me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I would agree with that. I'm not a huge Philip Rivers fan either. Never have been. I do like that the play calling that they ran. I did watch more of the game. Ugh. I did watch more of the game than I probably should have last week, just because I was interested to see what Philip Rivers was going to do. One thing that I
Yeah.
felt was a little bit, yeah, one thing that I felt was a little off is that I felt like his outs were a little soft. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see San Francisco's corner jumping the out routes a little bit more, which will set up opportunities for Indianapolis to run squirrel routes where they pump it and go. If they can keep
Yeah.
the rush of San Francisco off of them, there could be some big plays for Josh Downs, big plays for Alec Pierce getting down the field. Felt like Rivers' throws were a little soft getting out, like he didn't have the zip that an NFL quarterback needs to have. I'm a little surprised Seattle didn't take advantage of it, so maybe it was getting there quicker than it appeared on television.
Well, he's always got that shot put
It is an
move.
NFL game.
Like he's got that
Yeah.
shot put move that's always been unorthodox. Always been the fun part of watching Rivers is that it's almost like he comes over top of the ball and like shoves it with like his whole
Yeah.
elbow and like shoulder to like get it out there. And I think, listening to some of the people that do the plotting and whatnot on the throws, it does sound like he basically didn't throw anything downfield and that he kept almost everything
No.
right in front of him. And I have to assume that that's, whether because, whether you want to jump an out route or you want to let somebody try to run down the sideline and see, hey, can you really get this up and over, you know, the
Yeah.
shell? Like he's definitely going to run into a different look than what Seattle gave him. But if
Yeah.
they can keep that middle of the field and creatively open it up so that he can get the ball quickly to guys in some space, they got the legs. Taylor should be able to run a little bit, and he
I
should be able to
I
score a
don't
little
think
bit.
they're gonna be able to. San Francisco is not gonna be able to keep that middle of the field they can dunk out just because of Taylor. The threat of Taylor means the linebackers have to stay home. They can't just
Yeah,
be dropping freelance. They have to respect that. And if the Colts can run play action off of it, if they can establish a little bit of the run, even if Taylor only has like 80 yards rushing the whole game, if they consistently hand him the ball, the backers have to stay put, which means that those slant routes that Detroit loves to run behind the backers are going to be open for him
yeah,
because of Taylor. If something happened to Taylor, that would change the dynamic completely, but it it
right.
just keeps the backers honest. So that's the interesting one, right? I mean, to me, that we got a couple of good plays here. I think a couple of good leans for you guys.
Yep.
Survivor, good luck to the 12. I'm excitedly watching this. I think I'm gonna still back Seattle right now, even though that some of your numbers indicate the Rams. More than anything, I'm gonna put a real low number on it, and I'm gonna do it just to root for the Seahawks when Bill's not. So we'll just see how that goes. So. Anyway,
Yes,
you guys,
absolutely.
I'm Nate. He's Brandon. We're the St. Louis Syndicate. You guys have an outstanding week. Good luck with your picks.
Good luck, guys. Cheers.